The diner's neon sign flickered, casting a red glow over Marcus's face as he stared at the coffee cooling in his mug. He was 28, but tonight, he felt 100 years old, worn down by whispers and accusations that clung to him like damp clothes. Across the table, his cousin Ethan, the man who'd once been his closest friend, wouldn't meet his eyes. 2 years ago, they'd been inseparable. Two queer black kids in a small Virginia town, dreaming of escape. Marcus had come out first. At 16, his heart pounding as he told Ethan he was gay. Ethan had hugged him, tears in his eyes, and confessed he was too. They'd promised to protect each other, to build a life where they could be free. But now, Ethan's silence was a wall, and Marcus was on the wrong side of it. The trouble started 6 months ago at a family reunion. Ethan's new boyfriend, Caleb, a charming white guy with a politician's smile, had accused Marcus of crossing lines, harassing Ethan, touching him inappropriately, whispering things that made Ethan flinch. The family believed Caleb. Why wouldn't they? He was polished, confident, a youth pastor who volunteered at the community center. Marcus, with his quiet demeanor and history of standing up to the town's bigots, was an easy target. The whispers grew louder. Marcus is trouble. Always has been. You gonna say something, Ethan? Marcus's voice was low, barely steady. The diner was nearly empty. Just the hum of the jukebox and the clink of dishes in the back. Ethan shifted, his hands twisting the edge of his hoodie. He was 27, lean, with a face that used to light up when they'd sneak beers by the river and talk about moving to D.C. Now, he looked like a stranger. I don't know what you want me to say, Ethan muttered, eyes on the table. The truth, Marcus said, leaning forward. You know I didn't do what Caleb said. You were there. You know me. Ethan's jaw tightened. It's complicated, Marcus. Complicated. Marcus's laugh was bitter. You let your boyfriend tell everyone I'm some kind of predator. And you didn't say a word. Our family thinks I'm a monster. My mom won't even look at me. Ethan flinched, but he didn't answer. Marcus felt the weight of a betrayal. The loneliness. He'd lost his job at the auto shop because of the rumors. Friends stopped calling. Even his sister, Lena, had started keeping her kids away from him. All because of a lie. And Ethan, the one person who could set it right, was sitting there like a coward. The bell above the diner door jingled, and Caleb walked in. Marcus's stomach twisted. Caleb was 30, all sharp cheekbones and easy charisma, wearing a pressed button-down that screamed, "Trust me." He slid into the booth next to Ethan, draping an arm around him. Hey, babe, he said, then glanced at Marcus. Didn't expect to see you here. Marcus clenched his fists under the table. Just talking to my cousin, he said, his voice tight. Caleb's smile didn't reach his eyes. Right. Family stuff. Ethan, you ready to go? Ethan hesitated, then nodded, avoiding Marcus's gaze. As they stood, Caleb leaned close to Marcus, his voice low. Stay away from him. Man, you're making things worse. Marcus wanted to scream, to flip the table, to demand Ethan speak up. But he stayed still, his heart pounding, as they walked out into the night. He was alone again, the weight of the accusation crushing him. But he wasn't done fighting. Not yet. The next morning, Marcus woke to a text from his sister. Lena, check your email. Now. His pulse quickened as he opened his laptop. Attached was a video file, sent from an anonymous account. The subject line read, "Reunion footage." His hands shook as he clicked play. The grainy video showed the family reunion, the backyard filled with cousins, aunts, and uncles. There was Marcus, laughing with his mom, passing out plates of barbecue. There was Ethan, standing close to Caleb, who had his arm around him. Marcus leaned in, watching every second. Then he saw Ida moment near the picnic table, when Caleb whispered something to Ethan, and Ethan's face went pale. Marcus hadn't been anywhere near them. He'd been across the yard, helping his uncle with the grill. His breath caught. This was it. Proof. He forwarded the video to Lena with a single word, watch. Lena called him 10 minutes later, her voice shaking. Marcus, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. This changes everything. It's not enough, Marcus said, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. I need Ethan to tell the truth. I need to know why he let this happen. Lena sighed. He's scared. Marcus. Caleb's got him wrapped around his finger. But this video, it's a start. What are you gonna do? Marcus stared out his apartment window, the small town stretching out below, a place that had judged him without a second thought. I'm gonna make them listen, he said. All of them. He spent the day replaying the video, piecing together what had happened. Caleb's lie wasn't just about protecting Ethan, it was about control. Marcus remembered the way Caleb always hovered, the way Ethan's spark had dimmed since they'd started dating. This wasn't just about clearing his name. It was about saving his cousin. That night, Marcus drove to Ethan's apartment. The video loaded on his phone. He knocked, his heart in his throat. Ethan opened the door, looking tired, his eyes red. Marcus, what are you doing here? We need to talk, Marcus said, stepping inside before Ethan could stop him. And this time, you're gonna listen. He played the video, watching Ethan's face as the truth unfolded. Ethan's hands trembled, and for the first time in months, he looked Marcus in the eye. I didn't want to believe it. Ethan whispered. I thought maybe I was wrong about you. You weren't, Marcus said, his voice breaking. You know me, Ethan. You know I'd never hurt you. But you let him do this. Why? Ethan sank onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. Caleb, he said if I didn't back him up, he'd leave me. He said no one would believe me anyway. I was scared. Marcus, I didn't know what to do. Marcus knelt in front of him, his anger melting into something softer, more painful. You're not alone, Ethan. You never were. But you gotta choose him or the truth. Ethan's sobs filled the room, and Marcus felt his own eyes burn. They'd been through too much together to let this break them. But the road ahead was long, and the truth was only the first step. The air in Ethan's apartment was thick with silence, broken only by the faint hum of the refrigerator. Marcus sat across from his cousin, the video still paused on his phone, the image of Caleb's smug face frozen on the screen. Ethan's hands were still covering his face, his shoulders shaking with quiet sobs. Marcus wanted to reach out, to pull Ethan into a hug like they used to when they were kids, hiding from their uncle's loud arguments in the attic. But he stayed still, giving Ethan space to process the truth they'd both avoided for too long. You don't have to decide right now, Marcus said softly. But you can't keep running from this. Ethan looked up, his eyes red and raw. I know, he whispered. I thought I loved him. Marcus, Caleb made me feel like I was worth something. Like I wasn't just the weird kid from this nowhere town. Marcus's chest ached. He knew that feeling, craving someone to see you, to choose you, in a world that often looked the other way. You're worth more than his lies, he said. You always were. Ethan wiped his eyes, his voice barely audible. What do I do now? If I tell the truth, he'll ruin me. He knows things about me. Marcus, things I've never told anyone. Marcus leaned forward, his voice firm. He's only got power if you give it to him. We've got the video. We've got the truth. And I'm not letting you face this alone. The next day, Marcus met Lena at the community center, a squat brick building where the family reunion had been held. Lena, 32, with her no-nonsense braid and sharp eyes, was the only one who'd apologized after seeing the video. She hugged Marcus tightly, her voice thick with guilt. "I should have known better," she said. "I let those rumors get in my head." "You're here now?" Marcus said, squeezing her shoulder. "That's what matters." They sat in the center's empty meeting room, the video playing on Lena's laptop. She paused it at the moment Caleb whispered to Ethan, her brow furrowing. "Look at Ethan's face," she said. "He's scared. This isn't just about you, Marcus." Caleb's controlling him. Marcus nodded, his jaw tight. "I know. But Ethan's got to stand up to him. I can't do it for him." Lena sighed, closing the laptop. "The family's meeting tomorrow at Mom's house. They're talking about you, Marcus. They think you're stirring up trouble again. You need to show them this video." Marcus's stomach twisted. The idea of facing his family, his aunts who'd stopped inviting him to dinners, his cousins who whispered behind his back made him want to run. But he thought of Ethan, trapped in Caleb's grip, and straightened. "I'll be there." That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He lay in his small apartment, the ceiling fan creaking above him, and thought about the summer he and Ethan had spent biking to the river, dreaming of a life where they didn't have to hide who they were. They'd made a pact, no matter what. They'd have each other's backs. Caleb had broken that pact, but Marcus wouldn't. The family meeting was held in his mother's living room, the air thick with tension and the smell of her famous cornbread. Marcus stood at the back, the video loaded on a USB drive in his pocket. His mother, Diane, 55, sat on the couch, her face unreadable. Ethan was there, too, sitting beside Caleb, his eyes fixed on the floor. Aunt Clara, the family's unofficial matriarch, spoke first. "Marcus, we're here because we're worried about you. These accusations, they're serious. We want to help you get back on track." Marcus's heart pounded, but he stepped forward, his voice steady. "I'm not the one who needs help. You've all been lied to." He plugged the USB into the TV, ignoring the murmurs around him. "Watch this." The video played, the room falling silent. Marcus watched their faces, his mother's eyes widening, Aunt Clara's hand covering her mouth. When it ended, he turned to Ethan. "Tell them," he said. "Tell them the truth." Ethan's hands shook, but he stood, his voice barely above a whisper. Marcus didn't do anything. Caleb made it up. He told me to go along with it, or he'd leave me." The room erupted. Caleb stood, his face red. "That's ridiculous. Ethan, you're confused. Marcus is manipulating you." But Ethan shook his head, tears streaming down his face. "No, I'm done lying. Marcus is my family. He's the only one who's been honest." Marcus felt a rush of relief, but it was short-lived. Caleb stormed out, slamming the door, and the family's questions came like a flood. Marcus answered as best he could, but his eyes stayed on Ethan, who looked like he was finally breathing again. The aftermath of the family meeting left Marcus drained, but lighter, like a weight had been lifted from his chest. The living room was quiet now. The family dispersed, some apologizing, others still processing. Ethan sat on the porch steps, staring at the streetlights flickering on in the dusk. Marcus joined him, the cool evening air settling around them. "You didn't have to do that," Marcus said, his voice soft. "But you did." Ethan nodded, his eyes distant. I couldn't let you keep taking the fall for me. Not anymore. They sat in silence for a while. The kind of silence that didn't need filling. Marcus thought about the years they'd spent together. The secrets they'd shared. The dreams they'd built. Caleb had nearly destroyed that. But Ethan's courage had brought them back. The next morning, Marcus woke to a flood of texts. Word had spread. Friends who'd ghosted him were reaching out. Apologetic. His boss at the auto shop called, offering his job back. But Marcus wasn't ready to celebrate. Ethan was still fragile. And Caleb wasn't the type to let things go. Sure enough, Caleb showed up at Marcus's apartment that evening. His face a mask of calm that didn't match the fire in his eyes. "You think you've won," he said, leaning against the doorframe. "Ethan's weak. He'll come back to me." Marcus stepped closer, his voice low. "He's stronger than you think. And he's done with you." Caleb laughed, sharp and cold. "You're naive. Marcus, this town loves me. They'll never believe him over me." Marcus held his gaze. They've seen the video. They know the truth. Caleb's smile faltered, but he shrugged. "We'll see." He turned and walked away, leaving Marcus with a knot in his stomach. Over the next week, Marcus and Ethan worked to rebuild what had been broken. They met at the diner daily, talking about everything: Ethan's fear of being alone, Marcus's anger at the town's quick judgment. Ethan started seeing a therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Harris, who helped him untangle the hold Caleb had on him. Marcus was there for every step, reminding Ethan of the kid who'd once stood up to bullies for him. But Caleb wasn't done. Rumors started swirling again, not about Marcus this time, but about Ethan. Whispers that he was unstable, that he'd lied about Caleb to protect Marcus. Marcus heard them at the gas station, the grocery store, the barber shop. He knew Caleb was behind it, trying to isolate Ethan again. "We need to fight back," Marcus told Ethan one night, sitting in Ethan's living room. "He's trying to control the story. We can't let him." Ethan nodded, his jaw set. "I'm done being scared. What do we do?" Marcus pulled out his phone, opening the video. "We go public. Post this online. Let everyone see it." Ethan hesitated, his hands twisting together. What if it makes things worse? It might, Marcus admitted. But staying quiet hasn't helped. You deserve to be heard. The next day, they uploaded the video to a local community forum, along with a statement from Ethan explaining what had happened. Marcus watched the views climb, his heart pounding. Comments poured in, some supportive, some skeptical. But the truth was out there, raw and undeniable. By evening, the town was buzzing. People stopped Marcus on the street, some apologizing, others asking questions. Ethan got calls from old friends, offering support. But Caleb was silent, and that worried Marcus more than anything. Late that night, Marcus got a call from Lena. "You need to see this," she said, her voice urgent. She sent him a link to a post on Caleb's social media, long, polished statement claiming Ethan was troubled and Marcus was exploiting him. It ended with a call for the community to stand against division. Marcus's blood boiled. "He's not getting away with this," he told Lena. "Not again." Marcus barely slept, his mind racing with Caleb's latest move. The post was gaining traction, shared by people who'd never questioned Caleb's charm. Marcus knew they had to act fast, or the truth would be buried under Caleb's polished lies. He called Ethan at dawn, his voice urgent. "We need to respond. Today." Ethan sounded shaky but determined. "I'm in. What do we do?" They met at Lena's house, where she'd already gathered a small group of allies, cousins who'd seen the video, friends who'd apologized for believing the rumors. Lena, ever the organizer, Had a plan. We host a community meeting, she said. Show the video again. Let Ethan speak. Make it public. Undeniable. Marcus nodded, but his stomach churned. Going public meant exposing Ethan to more scrutiny, more judgment. He glanced at his cousin, who was clutching a mug of tea, his eyes tired but resolute. You sure about this? Marcus asked. Ethan took a deep breath. I'm tired of hiding. Let's do it. They booked the community center for the next evening, spreading the word through texts and social media. Marcus spent the day helping Ethan prepare his statement, every word chosen carefully to convey his truth without breaking him. You don't have to tell them everything, Marcus said. Just what matters. Ethan nodded, scribbling notes. I want them to know who I am, not Caleb's version of me. The community center was packed that night, the air buzzing with anticipation. Marcus stood at the back, watching as Ethan took the microphone, his hands trembling but his voice steady. I'm Ethan Carter, he began, and I've been lying to you. Not because I wanted to, but because I was scared. He told the story how Caleb had manipulated him, how he'd felt trapped, how Marcus had been the one to pull him out. He played the video, the grainy footage silencing the room. Marcus watched the crowd, seeing shock, guilt, and anger ripple through their faces. When Ethan finished, there was a moment of stillness, then applause, tentative at first, then louder. Marcus felt a lump in his throat. Ethan had done it. He'd taken back his story. But Caleb was there, too, standing at the edge of the crowd, his face unreadable. As people approached Ethan with apologies and support, Caleb slipped out, unnoticed by most. Marcus followed, his instincts screaming that this wasn't over. Outside, under the streetlights, Caleb turned, his smile gone. You think this changes anything? He said. This town will forget by next week. Ethan's too weak to stand without me. Marcus stepped closer, his voice low and steady. You're wrong. He's stronger than you'll ever be. And we're done letting you control him. Caleb's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing, turning and disappearing into the night. Marcus stood there, the weight of the moment settling over him. They'd won a battle, but the war wasn't over. The next day, the community's response was overwhelming. Local businesses shared Ethan's statement online, calling for accountability. A reporter from the town paper reached out, wanting to cover the story. Marcus and Ethan sat together, reading the messages pouring in support from strangers, apologies from family. But there were still doubters, people loyal to Caleb, and Marcus knew they'd need to stay vigilant. Ethan looked at Marcus, his eyes clearer than they'd been in months. I'm sorry I let it go this far, he said. I should have trusted you. Marcus shook his head. You're here now? That's enough. They spent the evening planning their next steps. Ethan wanted to volunteer at the community center to help other queer kids in town. Marcus felt a spark of hope, the kind he hadn't felt since they were teenagers dreaming by the river. They were rebuilding, not just their bond, but their place in the world. The weeks following the community meeting were a whirlwind. Ethan's courage had shifted something in the town. People were talking, not just about the video, but about the bigger issues: prejudice, trust, the way lies could tear families apart. Marcus felt the change, too. His mom called him over for dinner, her eyes soft with regret as she apologized for doubting him. I should have known, my boy, she said, pulling him into a hug. But Caleb's silence worried Marcus. He'd expected more pushback, more lies. Instead, Caleb seemed to have vanished from public view, his social media quiet, his presence at the community center gone. It felt too easy, like the calm before a storm. Ethan was thriving, though. He started volunteering at the community center, running a support group for queer youth. Marcus joined him sometimes, watching Ethan light up as he shared his story, helping kids who reminded him of their younger selves. "I want them to know they're not alone," Ethan told Marcus one evening, as they locked up the center. "You're doing good," Marcus said, clapping him on the shoulder. "Better than good." Ethan smiled, but it faded quickly. "I keep waiting for Caleb to do something. He doesn't just give up." Marcus nodded, his jaw tight. "I know. We'll be ready." The storm hit a week later. Marcus was at the auto shop, elbow deep in an engine, when Lena called. "Check the forum," she said, her voice tight. "Caleb's back." Marcus wiped his hands and pulled up the community forum on his phone. There was a new post from Caleb. A video this time. He claimed Ethan had been unstable for years, that Marcus had coerced him into lying about the reunion. The video was slick, edited to show Ethan at his lowest moments, clips Marcus didn't even know existed. Moments of Ethan looking lost or upset, taken out of context. Marcus's heart sank. Caleb had been planning this, waiting for the right moment to strike. He called Ethan, who was already spiraling. "He's making me look crazy," Ethan said, his voice breaking. "People are gonna believe him." "Marcus." "Not if we fight back," Marcus said. "We've got the truth. He's got lies and a fancy edit." They met at Lena's, where she was already digging into the video's metadata. This was uploaded from a public library computer, she said, her eyes narrowing. "Caleb's covering his tracks." Marcus leaned over her shoulder, watching as she pulled up timestamps. "Can we prove it's manipulated?" Lena nodded. "I know a guy who does digital forensics. He owes me a favor." While Lena worked, Marcus and Ethan planned their response. Ethan wanted to write another statement, this time addressing Caleb's video directly. "I'm not hiding anymore," he said. "I want people to know who I am, not who he says I am." Marcus watched his cousin, pride swelling in his chest. Ethan was still scared, but he was fighting. They spent the night crafting the statement, every word a declaration of Ethan's truth. They posted it the next morning, along with a link to the original reunion video for context. The response was immediate. The forum lit up with support, people calling out Caleb's tactics. Lena's forensics friend confirmed the video was edited, with clips stitched together to mislead. They shared his findings online, and the tide began to turn again. But Caleb wasn't done. He showed up at the community center the next day, cornering Ethan as he was setting up for the youth group. Marcus was there, restocking supplies, when he heard raised voices. He ran to the meeting room, finding Caleb looming over Ethan, his face twisted with anger. "You think you can ruin me?" Caleb snapped. "You're nothing without me." Marcus stepped between them, his voice calm but firm. "Leave him alone. Caleb, you're done here." Caleb laughed, but it was hollow. "This isn't over," he said, storming out. Ethan was shaking, but he stood tall. "I'm okay," he said, meeting Marcus's eyes. "I'm not letting him win." Marcus knew Caleb's threats weren't empty. The man was desperate, and desperate people were dangerous. He and Ethan doubled down, working with Lena to keep the community informed. They posted updates, shared Ethan's story, and made sure the truth stayed front and center. The town was listening now, but Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that Caleb had one last card to play. Ethan was growing stronger every day. At the youth group, he shared more of his story, his voice steady as he talked about surviving Caleb's control. The kids listened, wide-eyed, some sharing their own struggles. Marcus watched from the back, his heart full. This was what they dreamed of as teenagers, a space where people like them could be themselves. But the tension lingered. One evening, as Marcus walked Ethan home, they noticed a car parked across the street, its engine idling. Marcus's pulse quickened. "That's Caleb's," Ethan whispered, his voice tight. Marcus put a hand on his shoulder. "Stay here." He approached the car, his fists clenched, but it peeled away before he could get close. The message was clear: Caleb was watching. The next day, Marcus went to the police station, filing a report about Caleb's behavior. The officer, a gruff man named Jenkins who'd known Marcus's family for years, took it seriously. "We'll keep an eye out," he said. "But you boys stay careful." Marcus nodded, but he knew the police could only do so much. He and Ethan needed to protect themselves. They started traveling together, never alone, and Marcus kept his phone ready to record if Caleb showed up again. The community center became their safe haven. Ethan's youth group grew, drawing kids from neighboring towns. Marcus helped where he could, painting walls, fixing chairs, anything to keep the space alive. One night, as they cleaned up after a meeting, Ethan turned to Marcus, his eyes bright. "I want to do this for real," he said. "Start a nonprofit, help more kids, maybe even open a shelter." Marcus grinned, the first real smile in weeks. "That's my cousin," he said, dreaming big again. They spent hours planning, sketching out ideas for grants, programs, partnerships. It felt like old times, when they'd plotted their escape from this town. But now, they weren't running, they were building something better. Caleb's next move came subtly. Flyers appeared around town, anonymous but clearly his work, accusing Ethan of lying for attention. They were careful, avoiding direct claims that could be traced back. But the damage was done. Some parents stopped letting their kids attend the youth group, citing concerns. Marcus was furious, but Ethan stayed calm. "We keep going," he said. "We prove them wrong by showing up." They did. The youth group continued, smaller but stronger. Marcus reached out to local businesses, securing donations to keep it running. Lena used her connections to get the flyers investigated, tracing the print shop back to a friend of Caleb's. It wasn't enough for a legal case, but it was enough to keep the pressure on. One night, as Marcus locked up the center, he found a note taped to the door. "You can't win." No signature, but he knew who it was from. He showed it to Ethan, expecting fear, but Ethan just crumpled it up. "He's scared," he said. "He knows he's losing." Marcus nodded, but the note stayed with him. A reminder that Caleb wasn't done. They needed to end this. Not just for themselves, but for everyone Caleb might hurt next. Marcus and Ethan knew they couldn't wait for Caleb's next move. They needed to take control, to end this on their terms. Lena suggested a final push, a public event to share their story, raise awareness, and fund Ethan's dream of a nonprofit. "Make it big," she said. "Show this town what you're made of." They planned a fundraiser at the community center, a night of music, food, and stories from the youth group. Marcus reached out to local musicians, while Ethan worked with the kids to prepare speeches. The event was set for a Saturday, and the whole town was invited. As the date approached, Marcus noticed Ethan's confidence growing. He was laughing again, the way he used to, his eyes bright with purpose. But Marcus couldn't shake his unease. Caleb hadn't responded to their flyers or posts, and that silence felt like a coiled snake. The night of the fundraiser, the community center was packed. Fairy lights strung across the ceiling cast a warm glow, and a local band played soft acoustic covers. Ethan took the stage, his voice steady as he shared his journey coming out, surviving Caleb's control, finding his strength again. The crowd listened, rapt, some wiping tears. Marcus stood at the back, watching with pride. His cousin was back, the Ethan he'd always known. When the kids took the stage, sharing their own stories, Marcus felt a lump in his throat. This was what they'd fought for, a place where truth mattered. Then he saw Caleb. He was at the edge of the crowd, his face half hidden in shadow. Marcus's heart raced, but he stayed calm, signaling Lena to keep an eye on him. As Ethan finished his speech, Caleb stepped forward, raising his voice. "This is a lie," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Ethan's manipulating you all, and Marcus is behind it." The room went quiet, all eyes on Caleb. Marcus started toward him, but Ethan raised a hand, stopping him. "No," Ethan said, stepping off the stage. "Let me." He walked to Caleb, his voice clear. "You don't get to do this anymore. I'm not scared of you. I'm not hiding. You lied about Marcus, about me, and everyone here knows it." The crowd murmured, some nodding, others glaring at Caleb. Marcus stepped beside Ethan, his presence a quiet show of strength. Caleb's face twisted, but he had no allies here. The video, Ethan's story, the kid's testimonies, it was too much. He turned and left, the door slamming behind him. The room erupted in applause. Ethan turned to Marcus, tears in his eyes but a smile on his face. "We did it," he whispered. Marcus hugged him, the weight of the past months lifting. "Yeah, we did." The fundraiser raised enough to start Ethan's nonprofit, and the community rallied around them. Caleb's influence faded, his lies exposed. Marcus and Ethan kept working, building a space for others to find their truth. They were family again, stronger than ever. Months later, the community center was alive with new energy. Ethan's nonprofit, named True Haven, had its first official meeting, with a dozen kids and their families packed into the freshly painted meeting room. Marcus stood at the back, watching Ethan lead with a confidence he hadn't seen in years. The kids laughed, shared stories, and planned a pride event for the spring. Marcus's life was settling, too. He was back at the auto shop, his co-workers treating him with a new respect. His mom called him weekly, her voice warm with pride. The town wasn't perfect, some still whispered. Some still judged, but it was changing. Slowly. One evening, as Marcus and Ethan walked to the diner, Ethan stopped, looking up at the stars. "I thought I'd lose you," he said quietly. When I let him control me, I thought I'd ruined everything." Marcus shook his head, his voice soft. "You couldn't lose me, Ethan. We're family. Always will be." Ethan smiled, his eyes bright. "I want to make this last," he said. "True Haven. The kids. All of it. I want to make sure no one feels alone like I did." Marcus clapped his shoulder. "You will. And I'm right here with you." They walked on, the diner's neon sign glowing ahead. The accusations, the lies, the pain, they were still there. Scars that would never fully fade. But so was the truth, stronger and brighter, lighting the way forward. As they sat in their usual booth, Marcus looked at Ethan, his cousin, his brother, his friend. They'd been through hell, but they'd come out together. And that, Marcus knew, was what mattered most.